we turned around and tried to get back to where we started, and we were probably swept another 500 meters down westwards, which ended up with us getting out the water and not having access to any of our kit. They managed to get towels to us, but when you spent an hour in 8-degree water and all you have is a towel around you, it gets a bit testing. What was quite interesting, probably the last 10 minutes of the swim, we hit some really strange currents. The waves popped up out of nowhere. There were whirlpools, not hugely strong whirlpools. We didn't feel that we were going to be sucked under or anything, but it kind of pulls your legs around. It was just not what we were expecting. The water was clear. There were odd looking jellyfish type things in the water. And again, getting through the kelp on both sides was quite a mission. It's really thick. And again, Ryan and Kyron swam off. They were about 3 minutes ahead of me, and I was probably 2 or 3 minutes ahead of Tox and Ram. Personally, I enjoyed Magellan. I mean, the Beagle very much. The swim back, although we got washed down, it felt like the current was actually pushing us as well, which I think it was pushing in and to the west. And it's really nice when you feel you're swimming as fast as a Rake Nettling and you're only an Andrew Chin. So that was quite nice.
And then the last one, the Cape Horn.
Cape Horn was that was Ram's idea. Ram's always the one pushing the envelope, and I get dragged along. I tend to be more cautious and circumspect, but he gets me into these things, and probably what makes us quite a good team is he goes head first into it, and I tend to just hold back a bit and make sure that we do err on the side of caution. Cape Horn for all of us was mentally daunting. It's known as the sailor's graveyard. Our boat captain didn't want to go around the point. We had spoken to some sailors in Port Williams who had advised us to swim, that there was a little bay that just below the lighthouse where all the ships dock, where one can climb out, and it's kind of in the lee of the island, and is very protected, and everyone advised that would be the place to swim. But our plan was to swim off the southernmost point of the continent. So we marked out a route between the two lighthouses. The one being the most southern lighthouse, which is not really accessible, and then the main lighthouse that most people see, when they go around there. When we headed around the Horn, the rocks, you could feel the sea changing. The rollers were coming in. We were lucky they weren't huge, because I'd been online and it said 50-foot rollers 2 days before, which nearly sent me into hysterics. But we probably had 1.5 meter rollers, but they were breaking quite powerfully on the rocks. There was a lot of white water. We started. We had a wet start just below the lighthouse, and the boat had hardly stopped, and Ram and Kyron were in the water, closely followed by Ryan, and then Talks and me hanging back, wanting to know what the temperature was and everything before I jumped in. it was quite a wow feeling jumping overboard. The water, although crystal clear, was dark because of the depth of the sea.
Really?
But it was, but it was beautiful. It was, for me, it was a sense of relief being in the water.
Okay. When you jump in the water, I have this image of Ram just jumping in and going for it. And I mean, when you jump in the water, do you hyperventilate? Do you is there a moment of shock? Do you swim fast quickly? Do you do breaststroke? You know, when a person just gets in such an environment, what do you do for the first 10 meters or so?
Yeah, on this one, luckily, we had planned to swim together, so everyone was just treading water. I'd actually breaststroke to them for the first couple of probably the first 10 meters. The Beagle, I swam head up probably the first 10 strokes just to get my breath, and Magellan was just head down, which is very different to what we did in Zurich and in Fraserburg, where you can, where you're walking into the water. It doesn't take your breath away. When you jump in, it definitely hits you a bit differently.
So are you saying that it hits you differently because it's lake versus ocean water, or because the temperature between, let's say, 4 degrees is different than 6 degrees? Can you explain that difference?
No, I think it's submerging yourself in seconds as opposed to a more gentle walk-in that really just, I mean, even often when we jump in Camps Bay, when the sea's about 10, it seems to compress your chest, and it does make one want to start off really fast, which doesn't really work, for this kind of thing. But the swim itself was amazing. Although we only had one rubber duck between the 5 of us, and although we planned to swim together, we soon ended up in our normal split. Me hugging the toes, or trying to hug the toes of Ryan and Kyron, and Raman Talks behind. Although Raman Talks took a slightly different line on the horn swim, because we tried to avoid some current that we felt was holding us back. We had a rough idea where we wanted to get out on the swim, but because we took a slightly different line, we weren't exactly sure how to get there. And there was some waves breaking on the rocks, and we had the Navy come up and point and go vamos, and it's very different when you've just got your eyes sticking out the water to people on the boat. And I remember thinking to myself, it's much easier said than done. After an hour in 7-degree water, I mean, it's not very humorous when someone comes up to you and just points and goes vamos. Anyway, we got quite close to the beach that we wanted to get out at, but the Navy wouldn't let us get out. They said they couldn't bring their boats in, and were worried that we might get knocked by the rocks, cut up on the rocks. It was 2 days before we met someone who sailed around, and he said, well, if you get to the rocks and a wave picks you up, just let it take you, and when it washes you on the rock, just hold really tight, and when it sucks back, you'll be left on the rock, and then you scamper up. He made it sound quite easy. Luckily, we never found ourselves in that.
Oh, okay. Now, it looks by the pictures of it that the rocks are quite sharp, and if you did hit them, you'd be cut up. Is that true?
Well, I think if one got there in a very, very in rougher conditions and had less control, I'm pretty sure one could get seriously hurt. Yeah, although the sea was by no means flat, we still felt in control. So you could kind of direct yourself away from where there was a lot of white water. And I certainly wasn't going to go near any rocks and hang on and wait for the wave to depart.
Yeah. Now, this is a more general question. You did these 3 swims, and you did them all within, I believe, either 10 or 11 days. During that period, you also got a little bit sick. Were you eating well? I mean, you were, at the same time, you were doing a swim, you're trying to recover, you're traveling. I mean, there were all kinds of things that you had to take in consideration, correct?
Definitely. I think probably the swims combined with everything else that was so different to what we used to really made this a hardcore adventure for us. Ram went onto antibiotics soon after we got there. The day before the Beagle, Kyron went to go see a doctor and was told that he had pneumonia and went on to antibiotics and swam anyway. Tooks and I were on med lemons and all other funny stuff and coughing up all kinds of phlegm and stuff throughout the trip. The food was plentiful, but very different to what we used to eating. A lot of lamb and chicken and papas or potatoes as we know them, but not much else. There was very little roughage. We stayed 3 in a room. The language was a bit of an issue. We had a translator for Magellan, but not on the other swims, which really made it challenging. But it's amazing how one adapts and learns. For me, the whole trip was hard. It was a real endurance of the mind and body and soul.
Yeah, and now that you're back, is there anything you could possibly do to top this? I mean, those are 3 incredible swims, and you hit all your goals. I mean, do you retire, or do you keep on pushing the envelope?